hear on the news, people are looking for jobs, there are no jobs. You go into our stores, and everything is made in China. You go to Lowe's, you go to Home Depot, every place you go to, Lowe's, hardware, everything's made in China. And I say to myself, if these things were made in the USA, maybe we wouldn't have this huge problem. And something happened along the way where it never used to be that way. And now it's just, I understand we have a global economy, but I think it kind of got out of hand. And I'm wondering what Washington can do about this to either stop more jobs from leaving or bring some of these jobs back and put people to work.
Okay, thank you. A couple of things. I'm trying to keep my answer tight, but you're all engaging in areas where there's a multitude of responses that are important. With the growth of American jobs, where should I start with this one? In the decade before I got to Washington, I'm not passing the buck, I just want to share what the starting point looked like. The decade before saw us losing 4.6 million manufacturing jobs. My theory as to why that happened was that we ignored agriculture as a sector, we ignored manufacturing as a sector of our economy, and we dwelled on service sector, primarily financial services. I don't have to tell anybody in this room what happened. We turned our back and said, laissez-faire, do as you please. It brought this nation's economy, this nation and her people to their knees. We lost 8.2 million jobs. We were losing 800,000 jobs a month in January of '09 when I was sworn into Congress. That's the starting. If that hadn't been allowed to continue as a trend, we would have been a full-blown depression, and manufacturing would not have been known to many more millions. We are still, interestingly, perched highest on the list for manufacturing jobs, but that's got to be turned around. Otherwise, the exodus is going to be choking. So our biggest import, succinctly, what I'm saying, was jobs, and that is unsustainable. What do we do about it? Well, I've embraced with my colleagues in the conference in which I serve in the House a Making America agenda. I support the President in his efforts to stop the tax incentives rewarding industries to ship jobs offshore. I support his measure to reward companies for returning jobs to the American soil and incentivizing those who will grow jobs here as startups. Those, I think, are smart tax reforms that need to be embraced. Now, as to the job record for our country, 8.2 million jobs lost, well over 4 million produced over 29 consecutive months in the private sector. These reports come out every month. Growth primarily in manufacturing and retail. Down significantly in construction. 21-24% unemployment in construction. We begged for months to do the reauthorization of the transportation bill. And quite honestly, it wasn't done because it was going to give somebody a success story. I'm not going to take it farther than that. You put that ahead of what's best for America, and it's wrong. We started off tonight with a question on infrastructure. We know how important it is to stay connected to community. We know how important it is to maintain safety. I represented the Assembly District, my home county, Montgomery, witnessed the loss of 10 lives in 1987. We just commemorated the 25th anniversary of the collapse of the Thruway Bridge because it was not maintained. So I learned firsthand what it is to be committed to safety, maintenance, and construction. And I know what it is to include transportation, the hauling of freight, making it possible to ship our commerce around the country. That's important. We needed to do that infrastructure bill much sooner than just a few days ago, and much better than we did. But this is what has been the hold, the paralysis on Washington. I think it's just this resistance to allow progress. Now, to manufacturing. I think we need to invest in automated manufacturing. We need to compete, and compete effectively. And you know, when people talk about what the costs are, what the tax packages, those are all important facets. But let me suggest to you, the greatest impact, I think, is having the most clever, creative, industrious workforce in the world. That begins with soundness of apprenticeship programs, training, retraining, pre-K through 12 instruction, and college. Making certain that all of that is building the individual. Because in this very competitive global economy, and the one of which I spoke, the global race on space in the 60s, that was US versus USSR. Today, there are dozens of people competing, dozens of countries competing. So we have to be sharper than ever in our skill set. And prime amongst them is who can do it smartest. Smartest. We need to invest in that human fabric that's going to run our businesses, run our industries, run our manufacturing base. Just in closing, I don't want to go any longer here. The manufacturing base, Kids Plastics in Scotia County, rural Scotia County, was having a tough time competing in a global race for their product. They did two things. They went to the incubator at RPI, and they got automated versions done with the cleverness of their engineering and industrial management people. And they came up with a soundness that made their product delivery smarter and more competitive on the global scale. You needed then to have people running that automated process. They went to Hudson Valley, and they trained the workers for the automated system. Today, he is very successful because of that. And he touts the values of incubator and of community college training and retraining. When I was at NYSERDA, we used them as the hub, and we reached out to community colleges across New York State to develop state-of-the-art employee benefit, employee strength for our manufacturing and small business community. That's how we get it done. It takes investment, and I stand by that message. Thank you very much. It's a very important.
Research and from what I've heard,
The gentleman deserves our respect.
you're still living at home with your mom. You've never paid a mortgage in your life, okay? Because little guys like us who do pay a mortgage and go to work every day at a real job, we're wondering why you think that you would be a better congressman than somebody like Bob Dieterich, who has worked his way up through the ranks from a teller at a bank to the CFO, been in the military, has 3 children that he supports, and works with the community at all times. That's my question.
Sure. I mean, there are a number of things on a personal front that you attacked me for that I could address. I won't do it here. I won't dignify it. But let's keep it simple. Why do I think I'm a good candidate for re-election? I work overtime, 24/7 in the job. I don't have any other job I run to. When I was in the legislature, many gave the minimum hours that you had to do to go to session and ran to other practices of law or medicine or were insurance agents or what have you. Only do this. What?
Let him answer the question.
Are you done? Thank you. I appreciate the respect. I choose to pour overtime effort into it. I've taken many measures to work on community projects to make certain that there's a quality of life out there. I see myself as a marketing agent for the community that I represent. when I go into special order and speak as well as I can, there are very, 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 very few engineers in the legislature in Albany and certainly on the Hill in Washington. I think I can count them on one hand. I think the mix of professional backgrounds is good. I think when you talk about banking, we can see what maybe got us into trouble. Some banking industry types got us into trouble. I'm not saying my opponent did, but you know, you want to categorize and characterize and assassinate. I think what's beautiful about this nation is anybody can run for public office. And we all get a report card, for me, every 2 years. And if you're challenging the wisdom of the people that I represent for sending me back to office many times over, you can do it. But I don't challenge them. I work hard, I respect the trust they've placed in me, and I think it's the trust and the performance that has been measured and respected 2 ways that acknowledges why I'm here as a candidate for re-election. Okay, and again, thank you everybody for joining us. Let's have a question here.
I'm Peter McGann, from again.
Peter?
I was wondering if you could rule out the possibility of ever voting for a continuation of the tax cuts for the